So Frank, MDC Brooklyn. It's kind of been in the news lately. It's a place reserved for people in federal custody. Of course,
Yeah,
MCC is closed now, so no one's really talking about that disastrous hellhole. But MDC is kind of in the news lately. You know, we got Luigi Mangione over there. We got Sean Puffy Combs, P. Diddler, as somebody people like to call him now. Um,
right, right,
so
right.
this name MDC is in the news, and anytime like there's like a high profile criminal in one of these federal places, everybody wants to know, oh, what's that place like? What's it like? As far as I know, I looked up today. I think Mangione, as far as an article I seen from yesterday, I believe he is in solitary. He's alone. Uh, Puff Daddy is in another place where it's like high profile. You know, he's not mingling with everyone else. Now I know that you never found yourself in like one of these high profile special prisoner or whatever type situations, but you did spend time in MDC. I'd love to learn about that, but more specifically, someone who you told me who you spent time with in there, who is Allie Boy Persico. Touch on MDC, kind of getting in there. What's it like? Let's focus on Allie Boy and some of those characters you met, and we're gonna do another MDC separate where we can talk about, really what it's like, some of the bizarre characters you might have ran into there, and all that other stuff.
All right. So the ironic thing about MDC Brooklyn is prior to me even being there, I was visiting there for a while. I used to go visit my brother. He spent like 2 years there, so I was familiar with the place. He was initially in the old building, and then he got put in the newer building. That's where I spent my time. Now the older building in MDC was really it's bunks. It's old. Is there a difference which prisoner goes to which one? If you notice, there's two buildings. One that looks old, and then the one that everybody looks at now that looks a lot newer. And is there a difference between them? Yeah, one's a dorm and one's rooms. They're rooms with two inmates per room, 120 per unit, and there's two tiers, 60 in each tier. But looking back, it wasn't like they put who they want. Like if you had co-defendants and they want you to be together, they put one guy in one building, one guy in the other. I'm not a dorm guy. They all fucking in the dorm. I don't like that shit. You know what I mean? They use like one bathroom. It's like I'm not crazy about it, but guys that are high profile, they tend to want to put them in the hole in the beginning. And you don't know if that's like just to break them or whatever. But a guy like Mangione, I understand. A guy like Puff Daddy, not so much. Eventually, he'd probably go in general population. But like when I was going there in 2002, I got arrested in 2002. I got picked up at the house, bunch of feds, whatever. The whole 9 yards, helicopter. I got taken in on a racketeer and murder charge, and when I got taken in, it was basically so they took me to they tried to break me. Do you have anything to say? I said no, and then they took me to the MDC in Brooklyn. So they took me to the MDC over there, not the special housing like Luigi Mangione. Back then, when I got arrested in 2002, it was like basically about 6 months or 9 months after 9/11, right? So I got taken down in 2002. So you had a lot of those terrorists or people that thought were terrorists. So they had them on the 10th or 11th, not 10th floor, the 10th floor, which was basically segregation, the hole, and they kept him there. So this is where he probably be at. But when I got there, we went for orientation. It wasn't that bad. The new building wasn't bad. A lot of people, you have mixed stories about it. It wasn't MCC. MCC was a lot dirtier. So I go for orientation, and then I get a floor. When I go down on the floor, basically I'm looking for co-defendants. I'm taken down in a superseding indictment, and I wanted to know which one of my co-defendants were there. So I had 12 at the time, or 14, and none of them were there. You know how you usually get picked up together? I didn't. I got superseded. So the Grimaldis were out on bail, Joe and Vito, and they got arrested on March 19th. I remember that. It was my birthday, and I got taken in around June 19th. So I didn't. The only co-defendants I ran in there eventually were TG, Robert Lino, and Hector Pagano, who was serving some time somewhere. So they were my other co-defendants there. So they weren't on my floor. When I got on my floor, the only Italian guys were, there was a couple. There was like 4 or 5. And one was Allie Boy Persico. And Frank Campanella, Joey Campanella is part of it with the Colombo family. So I get there. When I get there, a guy approaches me with a whole bunch of fucking tattoos and shit. He goes, "You're Italian?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "From where?" I said, "I'm from Queens." He goes, "Okay, my name is Frank." I go, "What's up, Frank?" He goes, "Yeah." And I seen he was with Allie. I said, "Oh, yeah, you might know my cousin." Eventually, a couple of days passed. He goes, "Who's your cousin?" And I named my cousin Dino. Dino, he's from around Brooklyn. He goes, "Yeah, of course." He goes, "Okay, I'll come back." So they come back. They go, "You need anything?" I said, "I'm fine, And Ali said hello, what's up? But he wasn't like all up friendly or whatever. That was, the jail. It's normal. And I was like, "No, I'm fine." They gave you a couple of stuff to hold me down. I said, "Okay, you got cigarettes, whatever." I was smoking at the time. And I said, "Yeah, I'll pay you back when." "No, it goes, no big deal. Commissary, whatever." And basically things start slow in that process. They don't know who you are. You don't know who gets pinned there because those places are pretrial joints. So, in pretrial joints, those are very risky places to get friendly with anybody. You understand what I mean?
Yeah, you don't really want to talk with people.
And that's
So,
the other thing you hear from other guys too who are not familiar with going to jail at the time. They'll tell you right off the bat.
yeah.
And this was my first pinch actually in a jail situation. I mean, I've been arrested, central booking and stuff like and assaults and whatever. I bailed out 3-4 days later, but never in a jail situation. Not prison, it's not prison, but jail. So, but I had an idea, So I didn't talk about my shit. Nobody talked about that. It would. So I think that one time, "What are you in here racketeering?" I didn't add the other stuff because I just didn't want to, and it was slow process. A couple other Italian guys ended up coming in. It was this one guy who was arrested in an extortion case, and he had done time before. An older guy. He was pretty sickly. He was around the Gambinos, an associate and his buddy, and they ended up. Separating them, but I was there with the older guy, but he wasn't looking at a lot of time, but you could tell he wasn't doing good time. Okay. Who else was there? And little by little more Italians started coming and whatever. And this is within like a 2-3 month period of time. Frank leaves. I get close to Frank. We talk a little bit. Frank Campanella. We talk, but never Allie. Allie always goes to his side. He smokes his cigarettes. People even that were made at one point, like, that were that I ran in there, be like, "I don't know why he acts like that," or whatever. It's not that he acted like he thought he was better than anybody. And we'll get to talk about Ali, but it was just like later on, his theory was, "Look where we're at. Look, we're being eyed, we're listening to. It's not a place to make people think that we're part of something. Let's make people, let's fight our case or whatever." Right, and it just rubbed some of the people the wrong way.
Yeah.
And I was.
And this was what? And this was 2002, right?
This was 2002, yeah. But right. I get superseded. I get superseded again. Yeah. While I'm in there with more charges around October of the same year, and after that, Richie Canterell and all of them come in. A couple more Bonanno guys come in, and then TG is sent to our floor, and they almost get into it. So it's like, and I'll get into that too, Allie and TG. But to make a long story short, I was there, and we were like hello and goodbye basis. Frank Campanella gets designated. He goes to prison. That means that's his roommate. And eventually he comes up and I get a tap on the back. I'm like, and I look back. I have a roommate, but nobody, that I really fucked with. Whatever, you're in jail. And he goes, "Hey, you want to, Frank's leaving. Do you want to come bunk with me?" And I was like reluctant, but I didn't want to say no. You know what I mean? So I was like, yeah, okay. So I go there and we don't even talk for about a couple of days. He goes, yeah, I'll stay on the top. Everyone wants a bottom bunk. I didn't give a fuck. He was older. So I was like, hey, stay in that's okay. So I had a habit of fucking with the Arabs in there, the Russians. I would do their accents and just fuck with them, in a playful way. But and he would listen and he would laugh on the side or whatever. So like 3 days later, he looks under the bunk. He goes, he goes, hey, he goes, if you don't feel comfortable here, he goes, I mean, it's okay. I'm not gonna get mad if you don't. I said, nah, I don't feel comfortable. You're not the most fucking ongoing person. I just told him straight out. You know what I mean? It's not like you're fucking Mr. Have the welcoming committee, and. And he goes, no, I get it. He goes, I get it. And then he looked back. He goes, hey, do one of those accents when you fuck with the Russian guys. So from then on, we became friends. We became real close after that. I would fuck with people, and we talk about. Did he talk about any mob stuff? Not really. Sometimes we bring up people we knew. And he took a stand in passing. Like, I was like, yeah, my friend Vito, you probably knew. He goes, Vito, nah, who? That fucking crazy? Why, he's crazy like you? And he would laugh. And he brings up another crazy guy I grew up with in my neighbor named Joe DeLeo. He liked him. He thought he was funny as shit. He goes, you know Joe? I said, yeah, I grew up with Joe. And we'll talk about Joe eventually. Joe's fucking flipped out in jail. His gaskets got fucked up. And I heard he wasn't doing good time in that respect. But he was a really funny guy. And he talks about one time going on medical. And when he goes on medical, he runs into Joe, and Joe walks in there and sees some guy in there and fucking points out to him. He goes, hey, you motherfucker, stop shitting in the fucking shower. And he thought it was the funniest fucking thing in the world. And that was a lot like Joe DeLeo used to be. But anyway, we get close. We start. He helps me out with my case a little bit. I'm fighting this one case. I'm not looking to fucking flip at the time. I know you people might be talking. We never talk about his case. And at the time, I think he's still on that gun charge. He's there doing 18 months.
Yeah, it's a weapons thing. But he had spent time before that. He had a bid.
He beat a case, a 94 case on that Colombo case. He Barry Levin was his who I became friends with as well, acquaintance, whatever. And he beat a RICO murder charge on that Colombo war charge. He was one of the guys who beat it as well, and so was Bill Catullo. The senior. Yeah. He beat that case too. But prior to that, he had served 8 years on a heroin case, which he did bring that up. He told me, I got arrested for something I didn't do and served 8 fucking years and took a plea on. He took a plea or he lost the trial. I don't know. I'm pretty sure he probably lost. I'm not sure, but he did 8 years, and he had just come out, and that's where that Colombo war happened or whatever, and then he got hit with that racketeering murder while he was still in. So they always are looking. Every time he was ready to go out or in jail, they always hitting him with more fucking charges and more charges. So that case right there, the guy who kind of got him implicated in that charge when he in the 80s was so fucking afraid what was going to happen to him with his dad that he ended up blowing his fucking head off. And I didn't know that from him. Obviously, like I said, we didn't talk a lot of mob stuff. We played cards. We had a lot of things in common. We smoked cigarettes, and when they took our cigarettes away, we used to play Trivial Pursuit. And being that we were the only ones playing Trivial, we used to play with the cards, not the board. We used to read them. And knowing that, like, the game, nobody played it at the 120 people were there. That's where we used to hide our cigarettes when they became contraband. And we used to get them. We used to hide them in there, put them in the CO's bubble, and then pick them up at nighttime. So like that, if we got raided, they're not gonna raid the fucking CO's bubble. And that was my idea. He fucked off a lot of people. And they used to get pissed off over. Like TG came over there, and TG said hi to him, and he right off the bat he was like, "Hey, what's up? What the fuck they let you in here for?" He goes, "Oh, you're gonna start this shit again?" Obviously, they had gotten into a little bit of a tiff out on the outside, and he goes, Well, I'm not glad to see. He goes, what do you want to go tit for tat? He goes, you could go wherever the fuck you want to go. He goes, and he just kept on walking.
Wait, why would he say, what do they got you in here for? Like to disparage him? Like you shouldn't even be here? You're like,
No, like in my floor, like what the fuck? I got to deal with your stupid ass now.
oh,
That
okay,
kind of
okay,
shit.
okay. Yeah.
And TG was kind of like pissed off about it. He goes, we were at the area where people smoke at the time. He goes, you're with me, you're with us, right? This is. I said, no. I said, no, I'm not arguing with you. I'm not even. I'm just want you guys to get along. That's it. But his son-in-law was on the other floor or the other side of the building. He ended up going with his son-in-law, and I was kind of glad because I could see where that was going, the type of bullshit that goes in jail.
Yeah, Pagan.
I later learned this is what Paciello. They had a sit down over that, and that's what that was about. And bad blood came out of it. But me being a Bonanno guy and him being a Colombo guy, I really didn't want to be involved. And that's not the first time I got involved with him in a similar situation. The other one was Joe Messino, and I'll get to that too, where Allie got into it with him as well. They had seps on each other. I don't know if you know what that means. I mean separations. So Joe at that time was fighting for his case, so he would have lawyers there all the fucking time. So if Joe was downstairs with his lawyers, and Allie had a visit, and he was visiting his daughter. It was a 2-hour visit, which was different at the time. They was usually an hour. It was a 2-hour visit, and they usually tell Joe, look, Allie got a visit, but you guys got seps, so would you like to go upstairs? He goes, not right now, I'm doing something. So Joe waited like the last 15 minutes, and he gets to see his kid in 15 minutes, and he's fucking pissed. Joe goes back up. I'm downstairs, and my late brother is there. I'm talking to him, the one who just died, and Allie goes, at this point, we're close. We've been roommates now for about a year. We got to know each other pretty good. And he goes, you tell that fat motherfucker. And he's screaming over his daughter, and he's talking to me. He goes, you tell that fat motherfucker next time that rat sister talking about, at this point, Sal Vitale's talking, Joe's wife, comes to see him, I'm going to have a fucking lawyer visit too and take all my time. And I'm like, stop. We'll talk about it upstairs. Just I didn't want nobody to hear it,
Yeah.
At this time, at this point, Joe Messino was who Joe Messino was. So I'm like, we'll talk about it upstairs. I'm pointing upstairs. And my brother was like, what the fuck? Everything all right? Sees two fucking guys, two bosses arguing. I'm over there, and I'm like this trying to mediate a fucking thing. And, he's kind of like worried, I'm like, nah, I got it. It has nothing to do with me. Don't worry about it. You're good, And I go back upstairs, and he's fucking fit to be tied. He's livid. He goes, that motherfucker, he comes here, I'm going to get him. You see what I'm going to do and this and that. And I talked him out of it. I said, don't worry about it, man. Just let it go, man. It's not worth it. Fucking get a message to him with the lawyer. Tell him whatever. Next time, do me a favor. His daughter was there, but he didn't want to hear shit. And he was, I don't know how he handled it, but obviously from then on in, he had a fucking hard on for Joe after that,
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, let's talk about who he is though. Like, right, Allie Boy Persico, right? His dad is Carmine Persico, right? I mean, his uncle was who his uncle was. I mean, his whole family is, that's what he was born into. And I know that, he had went to college and maybe he was going to make something of himself. Yeah. Yep. Your favorite, St. John's, I believe, right?
Yeah, he went to St. John's. That's not to do with him being his favorite.
No, I'm saying your favorite place over there.
He went to St. John's.
Yeah. But so but of course, his dad was who his dad was. And his brothers, he's got a couple of brothers. They've had
two brothers, Michael and Larry. Larry. I got to know Larry.
They've had some trouble of their own. I mean, nothing to the extent of him, but I mean, it's got to be interesting growing up in that family. So when you met him, was anything? Did you ever ask him about his dad? Was that completely off limits, or did you?
Anytime you'd ask something that was, yeah. I mean, we didn't ask each other. We talk about each other like in a family sense. My girl at the time would come. He kind of liked her and the kid. That he liked the setting. I think at one point his older daughter, got a little friendly with my girl. at the time, my ex, but they were cool. But did I? No, it was always what are you going to do with your case? Are you going to go to trial? You're not going to go to trial. I said, yeah.
Yeah.
He was giving me a little bit of legal advice because he is that smart. He is an intelligent guy, and he was going through his thing. He got hit with 13 years. He pleaded on 13 years, which he regretted. I remember when that happened. Rena Raji was his fucking judge, and she's not really too good to Italians, or being Italian herself. And she went off on him after she sentenced him for a good 30, 40 minutes. And I remember that night, I remember he thought he was swimming up there. Like he was having a nightmare, like fucking banging on the fucking, on his bunk. I said, yo, you okay? And he just got out of it. He goes, that fucking bitch. He goes, she just went after me for fucking. He goes, I never should have took that plea. It was a 13-year plea. And later on, it was on extortion and loan sharking, and they even forfeited $1 million from him. But he was not pissed. He was just, when you regret something you shouldn't have did. Like other things are coming and whatever. And he ended up taking a plea on that on 13 years. So
I mean, a judge especially someone like Rena Raji. I mean, she looks at him. It's like, oh, what do you know? Another Persico, huh? What a shocker!
Yeah.
Like,
she's not too.
Your whole family is criminals. I could imagine what she was saying. Probably something like that. You haven't learned. Your father is currently in prison for life. This and that. All this other stuff. I mean, so I'm sure she hit him with the super guilt trip.
Yeah, of course. It's crazy because there was another kid that was on our floor, ended up coming. There's another 2 Colombo guys that ended up coming, and he was in very one was this kid John Floridian who ends up telling on him, and he was involved in a shootout with this Chicky DiMartino with Frank's brother, the guy Frank Joe Campanella's brother. They took the shot and he ended up flipping too. But this guy was eventually said that they were talking to him in MDC and, kind of because he ended up doing another trial. That was the Bill Catullo Sr. trial. And I never seen Allie talk to anybody in jail. He strayed from that shit. And I'll give you 2 incidents, too. One reason was Jack DeRoss comes to our floor. So when he comes in and he's like, hey, where's Allie? Yeah, he looks like Don Rickles. And we used to fuck with him a lot, me and Allie. He hated the fact that he used to watch Jerry Capizzi. He used to get Jerry Capizzi all the time. He goes, how the fuck can you listen to that? How can you watch that shit?
Gangland.
And Jack would be like Don Rickles. He'd be like, I don't know what's up with this guy. He was then like that on the outside. He would say that, and he just didn't like that. He just didn't like that they were bringing that. He felt that that's what the government want. What you guys are doing right here, talking about your cases, talking about guys on the outside, indictments ready to come. They love that shit. And he wasn't wrong. He wasn't wrong about that. But I was like, hey, man, your guy's here. You want to bunk with him or whatever? He goes, don't you move. He goes, I'm good. He goes, don't do that. I said, okay. I was just, trying to see, you guys are quick. But I became close to both of them as well. I used to fuck with Jack all the time. There was one incident where Jack would be like, he wait for his pills. He was he had pill line. And we used to go by the freaking cell and go pill line and wake him up. And he used to fucking look for the guy. And we used to watch from the top tier and crack up. We would lose our shit on him. You know what I mean? And he'd be like walking around, oh, somebody's fucking with me. Somebody's pulling my prick. But it was just fucking funny. That was
with
it.
The gangland news thing, though, that's pretty funny. I always like to hear about like what mob guys think.
Yeah.
No, DC and all that stuff. I mean, a guy like me, I love it. It's great. It's fun. But
I got a different comedy value out of fucking because I like to fuck around and laugh too. But I got different kind of comedy out of Jackie that I would do from Allie. Allie would like we would fuck around with like the suspected terrorist and shit. And because it was like done in a kind of passive aggressive way. We had one guy, Boris, we used to pretend we were Russian. He goes, tell them they're Russian or something. And he never used to talk, but he used to watch me fuck with him. He used to get a kick out of that shit. But back to Jackie, he one time went off on Jackie. and there was this kid Franco who was on our floor, and Franco got a message going to court from this Chicky guy. Not a message like hey, tell everybody I said hello. It wasn't like a criminal message. So when he came up, he had told Jackie that what's his face says hello, and Jackie's all about it. Oh yeah, that's good. How's he doing? Okay, all right, good. So when he tells Allie, Allie got annoyed off the bat. So he takes them too, and there's like, are you familiar with the old pizza place? They have those 4 chairs you could sit down where you eat.
Yeah, like a neighborhood pizzeria.
Like those 4, yeah, like those 4 chairs that all attached that swing.
Right.
So there's 3 of them there, and he calls me over there, and he goes, "Come here, you two. I want you to hear this." And I'm like, "What was he talking about? What the fuck?" But I kind of knew where he was coming to. So he goes, "All of yous, listen. If anybody says, 'Hey, I got a message for Allie. Hello, tell him I said hi. I don't give a fuck who it is.'" You got to remember, this Chicky guy's a May guy too. So he goes, "I don't give a fuck with. I don't know nobody. I'm not. Yeah. I'm gonna deny it. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to ever hear that again." And fucking, and he's like, "Any of you hear that?" And he's like, and then I'm like, "Yeah, whatever. I didn't send you no message." So I go back, and he wasn't talking to me, like he was talking to them. But he goes, "I really didn't. You know better, but I don't know why they keep doing that shit." And Jackie was pissed. Fuck him. He don't talk to me like, on the side. I said, don't let that shit go. That all he don't talk to me and stuff, because it's only gonna get worse. Just let it go,
Yeah.
And
well, the interesting thing is, because this is like 2002, so he's, as far as Allie Boy is, he's yet to be even charged for what he's sitting in prison for right now for the rest of his life.
I think that case is circumstantial on his end. I don't know. I don't know the particulars about it.
Yeah, regardless of that, but so you got to wonder, like, he must have been living with that on his back too at the time. That must have been rolling around in his head. That something might be coming again, and they're going to keep doing this and doing this and doing this.
And it eventually does, come again. And
it's a good excuse to be standoffish and just low key. Don't pass.
I agree, and I don't know. No, I didn't know
unless that's him. And in general, well, I wouldn't know.
What do I know that my cousin is involved in that murder, killing this guy? I don't have no fucking idea at all. I
know that you don't.
This Cthulhu, the Cthulhu, older Cthulhu guy. Right. I don't know anything about that shit, and thank God. I'm glad I didn't know anything about that. When they asked it. Because they asked, you're Dino's cousin. Do you know anything about Allie ever said anything? I was like, no, Allie never said anything. And which he didn't, And that's what gets me. This Floridian guy said they used to talk all the time. I never seen him talk with Joe. And I was his roommate for a year and change. And the Jackie talk, maybe. But, do I think Allie is in there for circumstantial shit? Yeah, I do. But that's not my thing. It's neither here nor there. I mean,
right.
But I think even Bill Cthulhu Jr. Feels that the same way, and I don't know what's his argument, but I guess one day I'll talk to him about that. In respect to Allie's case.
Yeah, and even if it is circumstantial, and even if he thought himself that was circumstantial, and which it may be, he was most likely, thinking about it while he was in there. You mentioned Chicky DiMartino. You speak to him at all?
No, I don't even know who he is. He was in the other building.
Okay.
Like I said, I knew Frank Campanella with Joey's Campanella. He was the one who got shot at. He ended up cooperating too, apparently, accordingly to John Floridian, who was there.
Right.
He was on the beach or something, to that nature. But in respect to Allie, it just seemed like a lot of it was like guilty by association. You understand what I mean? Back to his dad and who his dad is. And I seen the same situation with his brother Larry, who had a no-show job. The normal person, I don't think, would have been through the obstacles that Larry went through. Larry, I've said it before, suffers from his own little thing. I don't want to mention it, not to But
Uh-huh.
I like Larry. Larry was a real lovable guy.
Uh-huh.
You hear different stories. I didn't grow up with him on the street, but at the time I got to know him, he was a really nice, sweet man. He loved his kids, and I think if his father wasn't Carmine Persico, he wouldn't have been in jail.
Yeah, yeah. And I know the other son, Michael, did do a small time not too long ago.
They try to slay his ass too. And
Yeah.
hearing it from people that did know him, Michael was always a pretty straight arrow. Yeah, I mean, he always guilty by association, but
Right.
he wasn't that guy on the street. So they almost gave him a long time on something he said he wanted to take the try. He didn't know nothing about,
Right.
I kind of believe him.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and I remember when he did get in trouble a few years back, there was like the town, I don't know, where's somewhere in Westchester County. I think I remember like the town was like rallying around him. He was like, he's a good
Mhm.
man. He's a local business, like he's got a good name in his area. So I'm sure I think he did a couple of years not too long ago, but
Yeah,
like you said, obviously nothing compared to like the stuff that his brother was into. Funny,
right.
crazy story about Chicky DiMartino. That's why I asked if you ever spoke to him. According to Anthony Castle told this crazy story that he was told this by DiMartino. Jimmy Heidel. The kid that tries to
Yeah, of
whack him.
course.
Yeah, according to Casso, he says that DiMartino told him a story that he was actually sitting on Heidel because they were going to whack him,
Okay.
and he physically witnessed the mafia cops pick him up and put him in the car as he was
Wow.
sitting on him to kill him.
Waiting to sit on
This
this
was
guy.
at I think Diker Park, maybe. I think that's where it was, somewhere in Diker Heights in the
Well,
park.
that's where they're from. They're from the Dyker Heights area.
Yeah, yeah. So I thought that was a pretty fucking crazy story to be sitting on somebody and watch and that's according to Casso, of course. Obviously people have their opinions on what's true and what's not, but funny
Yeah,
story.
yeah. I feel unfortunate. He used to share good story. He would talk about his buddy in jail that ended up flipping too, but not in a criminal aspect. The guy Frankie Blue Eyes that he was really close to, and he ended up flipping. Johnny Pate, he had a story about him. He would talk about stuff like that, but never in a incriminating way. Like me and him did this one time, or me and them did that one time. He never was open for that kind of dialogue, and I never was listening for that kind of dialogue. But we got close in a lot of ways. I remember him the day he left. He got designated. They pick you up at night. Somebody like him, they just knock on the door. Come on, back up. You're leaving. And he goes, "Hey, when you go wherever you gotta go," and this is before I even flipped, or even thought about it. He goes, "When you go wherever you go, um, he goes, let me know. Try to come to where I'm at." I said, "Yeah, all right, whatever, okay, whatever." I wasn't even thinking about that. But he goes, "Do me a favor, keep an eye on my brother." I go, "Yeah, I'll move him into the cell with me," and that's what I ended up doing. I took care of Larry for a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and he's around. He was in the news a few years back, I remember. Yeah, they were making fun of him for his
yeah,
job,
yeah.
which is
He was
stupid,
putting his
which
kids
is
in
dumb,
there,
which is dumb. The
and
guy's working. Like, he could be doing worse things. Leave the guy alone.
yeah, exactly.
But
Like I said, he was a really nice, fun-loving guy. So,
yeah, yeah. But
uh,
Ali, he like obviously we mentioned, he did give his try at college. I assume he's not an unintelligent guy.
no,
I
no,
remember
no, no. He used to
you
play mahjong with the Asians.
oh, is that right? Yeah.
What are they gonna say about him? They can't say no. So he hung out with them a lot. He had a group of Asian guys that he would hang out and play mahjong with. Um, Very into military stuff. Like when I mean military, he likes the military history.
Okay.
The counselor used to bring him movie of Bora Bora. You over there watching it, but
Yeah.
but really to himself, not open to a lot of. But like I said, we became close, and I felt we did, and I don't know how he feels about me flipping, but like I said, I had nothing to flip on him about, and he, that's just not how it was. I had my own things, you know what I mean? It wasn't
Yeah.
like I was scheming.
Right, right. Yeah. I mean, you just had a regular
It's not
relationship.
like, hey, what do you got? I got
Right.
Ali because that never happened.
You just ended up in the same place at the
Hmm
same time,
hmm
right?
And,
So
and, and actually, in the beginning, it started off a little bit rough. We ended up being really, really cool with each other. Really cool.
yeah, yeah. Well, what you say, I mean, that speaks to your character a little bit. I know people might have opinions on you, but you know, it's also speaks to humor. Humor always gets people, right?
Well, yeah, and not only that, he was a little bit, but more like the people I kind of grew up with early in life.
Yeah.
Um, we had similar interest, history and trivia and shit like that. So we kind of gelled on that.
History and trivia, yeah. Like
Yeah, we used
Selenium.
to listen to the Joe Franklin show at night. It used to come on the radio, and then they would have like those old time radio shows, and we used to laugh about those shows that we listened. We had like old souls, you know what I mean?
Was it like WCBS or something like that?
Yeah,
Like
yeah, the Shadow and Superman and all that other.
like the serials, as they would call them.
Yeah, right. Where the people used to be in the radio station and act out their parts.
Yeah,
But
no,
the,
I
the
love that. I love
originals,
that.
the
Yeah, yeah.
originals,
Yeah, I think they would call them serials, as in
the old the Elliot
SERIAL.
Nest ones and
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah. Yo, those are great. Those are great. Naked City. This
Right,
is
exactly, right,
yeah. There's
exactly.
some good ones that I found recently that I gotta show you.
The Shadow knows, and we would
Yeah,
listen.
yeah.
But
Yeah, no, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. That's why actually sometimes I do reenactments on NYC Crime Spot when I do this. I like to do voices. I think it adds a cool little thing to it. It's kind of old
of
school,
course,
but
in New York, the Joe Franklin show. I remember my late
yeah.
brother used to watch it just to laugh. He used to love when Joe Franklin be like, "We got a very, very talented artist here, Bobo the Clown." And he goes like, "Oh, what's so fucking talented about him? A lounge singer from a
Yeah,
fucking dive bar. And
right.
and that was just great. Those were good. Those were fun shows to watch.
Hey, radio's good, man, and look at podcasting. People just listening to audio like they're listening to us now. When it all comes down to it, people love listening to things. So radio's not dead. It's just kind of
Mhm.
transformed a little bit, I think. But back to Allie Boy, you
Sure.
kind of answered what I was gonna ask you as far as like, all right, like this guy's locked up and he finds out, oh, that Fiordolino went bad, huh? Fucking guy. I liked him too. You think that's kind of how, or you think he was
I don't
capable?
know. He'd feel disappointed because he would talk about friends that did in a not in a long thing, not he would laugh like a story they had together, but he wouldn't get into anything how he felt. I'm
Okay. No,
telling you,
I'm saying, how would
others,
you imagine he felt? Like he'd be let down. He would be like, think of you less.
the only time I would see his emotions out of like frustration or something were brief and very, very. You'll get to know how he felt. Like fuck that rap motherfucker, something like that.
Okay.
But
Okay.
that
Yeah.
would be very, very quick and no backstory. You understand?
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
That's how he
Interesting.
was. And when I'm talking about that is because when you're in MDC back then, we'll talk about MDC. A lot of the guys there are telling. So you're in there with a lot of people that are telling that you just don't know about. So if a guy's in there for like 4 years, five, he's still telling. He's still bringing people in because that's a long time to be in pre-trial. I don't give a fuck how many co-defendants you have. So you had guys like that, and you know, people knew it. I would, yeah. There's a lot of guys telling on pre-trial.
Yeah. And what's the dynamic in there? I mean, I guess it seems like all you Italian guys flock together,
Yeah,
but
but not many.
not many though. So what is there like a racial tribalism going on, or is
Yeah, I
everybody
was
kind of
there was a lot
on
of
the
Dominicans. There were like
okay,
50,
okay.
at
But
least 40.
everyone's kind of on their toes, generally speaking, right?
No, shit could break off, but not much. I mean,
Well, I mean, like they're trying to be careful. They don't want to do anything stupid. They're pre-trial. They don't want to
they
fuck
don't.
around. Right.
Yeah.
For the
Well,
most part.
so- sometimes,
Right,
sometimes,
right, right.
um, sometimes.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
If
there's always an
if
exception.
somebody's co-defendant that's telling accidentally and gets put in a place where a guy is going to trial, he's going to go after him. He'll shank him, whatever. There's stuff to get in there. You get a lot of mules, if anybody knows what a mule is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because the Brooklyn Queens, they serve for JF Kennedy and LaGuardia. Well, LaGuardia is not going to get those international mules as much as that JFK does, but they go straight there. So we had Nigerians, Colombians, people from Holland and the ecstasy, bringing in shit like that. So we had a lot of that. We had a lot of Dominicans, New York Dominicans. At the time, we had a lot of people getting yanked off the street because of 9/11. People from colleges, people working, people that been here 10 years. but entered illegally, and they would bring. Now, if they was somebody that was tied to any terrorist group, they went straight to the hole. And the COs were rightfully so, pretty shitty to them. You know, they caught a case up in MDC from beating on a couple of terrorists with ties. So you know that was
Wow.
I wasn't
Do you
even there when.
remember the most high profile person there when you were there? Do you recall?
No. What they didn't tell you what they were doing. So let's say the 20th hijacker, or there was 19. There was a guy in Minnesota, Zawawi or something. He wanted to fly the planes, but he tells the instructor, but he's interested in flying, not landing, and it caused a red flag, and they picked him up.
Guy.
Yeah, he was there, but he would be there for a month, and they would rotate him around prison to prison because they didn't want people to know they were there, so they want to keep them shut and put a bomb there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they would do that. But we'll talk about MDC soon, and I'll give you know, because this is about Allie, but we're gonna do the MDC segment, and that's an interesting one too. But during that time there was a lot of that going on. They were yanking people off the street like crazy.